on a local law. Dan, do you need to read this or no?
I would prefer not to read it, but you.
Okay, I'll read it. I'll read it. Public hearing number 1, a local law regulating use and permitting of a LED and illuminated sign within the village of Homer and Portland County. So this is a joint meeting between planning, zoning, and the board of trustees. We had sort of a unique situation where we had 3 organizations all come to the village at the same time requesting LED signs, Center for the Arts, the Legion, and the fire department. And so understanding this is a very sensitive area, you know, big walking area and a historic district, we are very sensitive to the fact that this has to be done right. I think probably everyone in this room at the end of the day shares the same sort of general desire for the outcome, which is not to damage the character of the village. I would say it's hard because, you know, we don't have rotary phones anymore, you know, things like that. We do have to move forward. The signs that are there now, they all have the plastic signs with plastic letters that light up, aren't exactly particularly historic. I think they were brought in the 70s. So that's not exactly keeping with the historic character either. Our goal, and I don't want to disparage, say, Dryden or McLean, we do not want a sign like that, where it's flashing, blinking, motion, anything like that. We're looking for something that's static, that is in a permanent enclosure. But ideally one that takes the character of the building that it's in front of and carries that design aesthetic throughout it. We'll be looking at strict regulations for how bright it can be, especially at night. I personally don't think that the message on that sign should change more than once per hour, and never with motion. But we're here to hear from all of you and kind of get your feedback. We, at the end of the day, do nothing. There's nothing to stop these 3 organizations from going and putting new bright plastic signs with plastic letters and right where they are. And to me, I don't think that looks all that great. So, but we're here to listen to you folks. So I think, do we want to hear from residents first, or do we want to go and hear from the 2 boards? I almost kind of. What would you guys prefer? I asked the chairs of the 2 boards. Would you guys like to give comments first, or we can talk? Let's hear from the public. Hear from the public first. Yeah. Okay. All right. Mr. Sweeney.
Michael Sweeney, 21 Breakfast Drive, Homer. I feel like a person's caught in a rock in a hard place, as you will understand. First of all, as a historian from the village of Homer, it is my job, as I get paid to do, to preserve accounts of its past and to preserve its historic architectural and environmental image. In that capacity, I oppose the introduction of digital LED signs within the historic district. It is a modern intrusion into the historical aesthetics and ambiance that is our #1 asset. It was 50 years ago when the Homer community decided to establish the historic district. It was recognized then that the village was unique in its wealth of historical resources that required protection and preservation. The prime responsibility of implementing the agreement rested with the village officials. The agreement states, and I quote, "The village must assume its responsibility to serve as custodian of these cultural, aesthetic, and environmental gifts from our forefathers." Now, it went on to say that the objective is not to create a museum here. I think one of the reasons it comes across as a museum is because people live in these buildings, and they've done an admirable job of keeping it preserved. So they've done their bit to keep the character of the district. That being said, however, I am a practical man who lived in the 21st century. I'm well aware of the benefits derived by ever evolving modern technology. A 19th century kiosk on Main Street with posters indicating upcoming events at the Theater Opera House gave way to admittedly ugly 20th century boards with removable plastic letters on Main Street. And now they are likely to give way to flashy 21st century digital signs. If we find in 2023 that we no longer choose to honor the commitment they made back in 1973 through 75 to create and maintain the largest historic district in the state, I would advocate for limiting the number and location of such signs in the village and working on a compromise in which digital signs are strictly required by village law to meet exact set standards and to be ensconced in frames or structures that resonate with nearby architectural elements. For example, I went online and I saw a sign that looked like it was set within the architectural element of a new bus stop shelter installed at the foot of Cuba Street. Brick and cast iron of the past can blend with modern elements. I understand that. However, when a community is aware of its history and aware of what visitors find appealing about the community's historic appearance, every effort should be made to preserve with pride as much of that environment as possible, as is being considered now for the little white church on the green. But next door, of course, is the elementary school. Will that be next to request a digital sign? Are we opening up a can of worms here? So let me conclude by repeating my position. As you heard me, 2 plans. Plan A, an ordinance banning digital signs within the historic district, period. Plan B, an ordinance with strict standards in place to govern the number, location, size, and architectural elements of digital signs in the historic district and the village at large. I prefer Plan A. I'd like to preserve the character of this village.
Martin, you seem to have that written down. Can we get a copy of that?
I'd like to never ask. Want to sign it?
All right, who's going to go next?
Young Siegel, I live at 72 South Main Street. So for months, Homer officials engaged in heated discussions with citizens about what should be on the signs, welcoming residents and visitors into our village. And in the end, we chose this sentence: welcome to historic Homer Village. I assume that is because it was determined that the ideal selling point for our village, the aspect of Homer that would make it most attractive to tourists, prospective buyers, and those passing through, is how Homer has preserved its unique historic character in an era of modernization. In a recent article in the Portland Standard, former Mayor Mary Alice Ballardini was praised for helping Homer achieve the designation of the largest intact federal and state historic district in New York. Our historic character indeed makes Homer Village rare and noteworthy. Please explain then how brightly lit, obtrusive 21st century LED sign fits with that messaging. I believe approving the LED signs would be a hypocritical slap in the face to the integrity and pride of historic Homer. Thank you.
And I'm going to ask you for your copy too, if you don't mind. All good stuff. Yeah.
Who would like to go next? Be shy. Somebody.
Hey, you're amongst friends here, come on. Nobody's gonna beat you up.
Should you point out that the law is just coverage.
The LED sign law that hasn't been written, we haven't put it in yet, but it'll be dependent on what zone, how things are zoned. So.
Are we reacting to the proposed one? was presented to us?
This is just what it says, a draft. I think it's kind of a starting point. You know, I've been doing research. We would definitely want to put in the ordinance that the sign couldn't be, I don't know if it listed, the size of the, bulb. So 6 millimeter, which is pretty much the smallest you can find now. So my, which makes it for a higher resolution. So it doesn't look pixelated, but the LED signs that you see pretty much throughout the county now look very pixelated. They are probably 16 millimeter, 18 millimeter. So 6 is a lot closer to sort of the TV screen. So that's one of the things, you know, we talked about. And then of course, making sure that they are dimmed to a certain level at night. That's another big thing. Something you can actually, I don't know, I guess you could do it with a cheap plastic sign, plastic. So, I mean, this is, you know, if we do nothing, part of this is organizations that want them are going to have to, you know, come and speak up because again, there are three really important organizations in the village that are all asking for this. It's not something that we decided should happen. We got 3 requests pretty much at the same time. Yes.
The Center for the Arts said they would make fine without
It's news to me. Okay.
it. Well, can't hear you. The Center for the Arts said that they could survive fine without an LED sign, and in fact, if the law was passed, they likely wouldn't be installing one anytime soon.
That's the first I've heard that.
Where did that come from?
I had a conversation with Ty the other night, Friday night. He pointed out that he could go, he would like one. But he understands the historic nature of the community, but that's what the community wanted. He would live by that, can understand. But he hasn't recognized the need. So that's how I interpreted what he said.
Who's next? Victor, you promised me you were going to come up with a better version of the cheap plastic sign with cheap plastic letters, which are what we have now and we may well have.
I actually did, and it would exceed the time limits. I'm not going to discuss it today.
No. That's how this works. You can't do that.
Thank you for the
County did that to
Thank you
me.
very much for the extra time. And thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. So although I'm not an expert on the following subjects, I have a strong interest in continuously improving the village of Homer. Homer is a special place. The Center for the Arts recently wrote, "Our unique character comes from our small town, rural atmosphere, our broad, charming tree-lined streets, a rich and varied collection of 18th and 19th century homes and commercial buildings, and the Victorian business district. Many other similar sentiments, including the first paragraph of the proposed sign law, echo these sentiments. I approve of implementing a sensible sign law. I'll submit all my attachments electronically and wish to have them entered in the record. I have 4 significant items to share. First, my single most important request is please do not approve a standalone law for signs. The Village of Homer Code, integrated with our zoning map, is the only appropriate place to add a sign law. Without a direct connection to the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Board, a standalone law will be an invitation to eternal lawsuits. To give up the connections to the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals would doom the law. I cannot emphasize strongly enough how inappropriate a standalone law would be. Second, and as important as the first request, please do not allow new LED signs in the Homer Historic District until the problems caused by their giant glowing pixels have been solved. We should not approve signs that will destroy the historic atmosphere we've all worked so hard to maintain. If the new sign law is drafted correctly as part of village code, creating a historic overlay district on our zoning map would be a straightforward approach to solve this problem. Appropriate LED signs would be allowed in areas outside the historic overlay district, such as Route 281. I attended the demo of, pass these around. I attended the demo of LED signs given by Watchfire in the town hall parking lot. When a salesperson gives a demo, they're making every effort to impress the decision makers. Photos of their demonstration are attached. As far as I can see, no one attending was impressed. The pixel colors were garish and the lighting was extreme. When I complained about the giant pixels, which are about 2,000 times larger than the pixels from a laser printer, the salesman asked me to accompany him. He walked me back to the Main Street sidewalk, more than 50 feet from the sign, and asked me if I still saw the pixel. Of course, I did not see them because we were now so far away. I pointed out that our LED sign would generally be about 15 feet from people walking down Main Street, and that the huge pixel size would be a very annoying problem for walkers. The salesman did not offer any solution. These LED signs are designed to be viewed at a distance while driving on a highway. They are not appropriate for walking. Their gross colors are not appropriate to the surroundings. Third, you can pass it around. There's about 7 pages there. Changeable letter signs, sometimes called marquee signs, are definitely a tried and true technology. In fact, Martin, I Googled it, and they've been used since the 1920s. It's not a new thing at all, so they definitely are historic. Marquee signs have, it says it right here, have probably been successful here for over 100 years. They blend well with the historic buildings of downtown Homer. I will give photos and an essay showing the infinite range of attractive enclosures. The time required to change a sign can be shortened either by purchasing a second set of letters or by using computer guidance to help select the letters. Fourth, the New York State cannabis market may be a waiting giant looming over Homer. Estimates are that the legal New York State cannabis market will explode to almost $3 billion a year by 2026. $3 billion a year can purchase a lot of political influence. On the Mass Pike from Springfield to the New York border, every giant billboard is now a cannabis advertisement. The cannabis companies outbid Verizon, McDonald's, and every other company for every billboard location. New York State is susceptible to the same influence. Please do not write a law that can end up subverted by outside cannabis companies. I'd be glad to discuss my alternative after everybody spoke.
Yeah. I don't think that any of us were impressed with the demo either. I have no idea where you're going with the cannabis thing. I don't know. I think they're gonna buy the Central New York site.
They're going to buy the 4 billboards as soon as it becomes legal, and it's just going to become, I don't know what
What
the
billboard?
what
Not even town,
the town is proposing for.
Or the village.
I understand that, but we're
Wow.
feet away.
I know, but that's not, we have nothing to do with that.
Right. I only just say, think about it and don't do something that will end up the way the world appears to be going.
All right, I still would like to see your better version of a plastic letter
Can
sign.
I wait and let people talk?
Yeah, Victor, can I get your,
Yeah, I'll give it to you all later.
All right, who's next?
I think Debbie.
Debbie Williams, 9 Brentwood Drive, and also co-owner of Village Food Market on Main Street. I'm not very prepared, so I'm gonna look really shameful in front of all these people, but I don't think we need to completely say this is a no-go. We have to move forward with progression, technologies. So much stuff gets put out there, and even as a business, we get people coming in, offering us different ways of advertising. So I don't think we should just say this is a no-go. We need to really approach it at a professional level, go through all the, I mean, obviously you guys are all doing your homework, but I don't think it should be a definite no. There's things out there that could work for everybody. We've lived here since 1990. And there's been other discussions to the village. And with everybody working together, everybody's been pretty happy with the outcome of different things, you know, it's from house paint colors to, you know, porches, all kinds of stuff we've seen happen. So I think there's a happy medium with all of this.
Thank you.
I have nothing on.
Pierre Bowdre, 37 North Main Street. I come from a little different spin. So we're living and we're actually sitting, I'm standing now, in a junk light environment. This LED light is very deleterious to our health. Longer term effects are being studied right now. I forwarded 4 or 5 emails to Patrick earlier today that he can share with the board. And I'll just remind everyone sitting here and standing myself that years ago, that streetlights that probably ran on gas. We moved into electricity recently in the last 4 or 5 years. We did the LED switchover. This year, we put new Christmas decoration lights that are all LED. No one was ever asked about that. So Christmas used to be bright colors, but not all white. Now it looks like we're being set up for surveillance, capitalism, and cameras everywhere to see who's out about it. So those are my comments.
All right, thank you. Next. Come on, John, you gotta have something to say.
I came here to get information,
All right, here's a gentleman.
but I just would say, you know, it'd be helpful would be to see maybe some comparables where it's been done in some communities. And then it was decided not to do it in others, to get a sense of what it does change.
I agree, I think that's good, I think it's a good point. Someone in the back,
Yeah,
yes,
Michael Diller, 14 Elm, yeah, and I'm new here, details, so I quite actually don't know all the details. So my story is very quick. I've been traveling to Oklahoma a lot for the last 4 years. About 10, 12, 14 years ago was when there was one of the churches on the green started to have like, I don't know, neon from whatever. But when I came, and my wife and I were driving, I sort of went, ugh, okay. And then that afterwards was, this was early on, and then they put a, you know, an architectural wrap around it, whatever you call it, and it looked fine. But still, every time I go to Homer, I sit there and say, well, now I'm here and walk every morning, and you see the sign, I won't say which one it is, that sort of blinks. Well, okay, there's some sort of malfunction, which I'm sure will get fixed. But to me, it's like, okay, well, this is the starting Gallery Road. So the only thing I would say is that whatever you do, to think about, what do you call that? It's called policing. Something to, without a police officer, to sit there and make sure that whatever happens, that I think everybody here is in agreement as to what the goal is, but having the goal implemented is always the hard part. That's all. And I don't have any.
thank you.
The discussion, folks, we haven't made up our minds, so there's no voting or anything, so talk at us. Now's the time.
I just want to point out that we also have the Brewster House, that's a not-for-profit. We have the library, that's a not-for-profit. We have the potential for these signs to be every 10 feet down the road
That's
if we improve this. So
Yeah, that's true. There could also the potential to be plastic signs with plastic letters every 10 feet down the road.
that's true too.
So, you know, it's a tough one. I mean, this is not, I've kind of dreaded wading into the whole sign thing the whole time I've been there. So here we are, but, you know, again, I don't think anyone in this room, has a different vision for the village. You're all here because of your vision and what you want the village to be. And that's why we're here. And so, I absolutely don't want to be the person that was mayor when they put in signs that people go by and go bid. Right? I don't want that to be a part of my legacy, so, and I'm sure these guys don't either, so, we're just trying to figure out the best way to move forward, if we move forward, so. Yes, sir.
I wanted to add also that a few years back, we had a person who was preservation, historical preservation expertise, take a look at our village, and of course, he chewed me out for why it wasn't Elm Street. Elm Ave, why wasn't that included? And I said, I was just a new teacher here in the '70s, so don't blame me for this. I said, to answer this question, how much of the village that is now 50 part of the historic district you're going to include it? And I was shocked. I'm glad I was seated in the car at the time, and he said the entire village. I said, wait a minute, I lived on a housing development that was built in the 1960s, not 1860s, the 1960s. He said, yeah, it's now considered a historical evidence of what has evolved. So all I'm saying, let's keep Main Street, the historic district, the way it was in the 19th century. And then as it evolves out, if you want signage on 281, fine. This is long as those signs are not glaring into my backyard. Oh, yeah.
The Family Health Network on 281 wants to put a sign in. And most of us, at least right now, the one convinced differently, they're probably going with some LED sign of some sort. So one of the things we may want to do is hold off on the historic district and see how that shakes out with the planning board and zoning and whatever, and see how that looks. And let them kind of, because they're on the county road or state road, so we don't have a whole lot to say on what they do, but we can influence it, I hope.
Well,
So that might be something we may want to think about, is kind of like a wait and see. Dump onto them as much as we can, maybe, to make sure that we don't do something stupid.
they are going for a, sort of a different LED sign. It won't be sort of what I think that would be more appropriate for the historic district. But it also won't be what they have in their current, sign further down. But it's not, theirs is because of their location, and it's not a big area for walking. It's zoned differently, so their sign that will be different, but it probably will still be LED, but
I'm guessing it would be.
Yeah.
And then maybe give us all a chance to take a look at
I just don't think it's gonna be the LED that.
we think.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
I have a question.
Yes.
There's 3 boards present, and I'm ignorant on this. Whatever ordinance we go through, what impact, if any, do the other 2 boards here have in that going forward as far as enforcement or?
So we would, and I'll ask Dante to jump in and correct me if I misspeak, but if we put the law in, it would become part of our code, our village code. And then as people apply for signs, they would go before these, the board of trustees will decide on the law. And the planning and zoning board would decide on, if the sign is appropriate and that conforms to the law. When people apply.
And if there were an appeal of some kind, what's the process? Would be?
That's a great question. I'm not sure.
And that's something that was brought up.
I jump in here, according to the proposed law, that we got a few weeks ago, states that, the zoning board of appeals shall have no jurisdiction regarding the granting of variances for electronic messaging.
Granting of variances. That's different than.
Right. And so we'll jump ahead a little bit. You don't allow an EMC, electronic message center, in the historic district. So somebody wants one, they go to the CBA for an appeal. Can't do it according to this.
Right.
That's the way the proposed law is written. I have some other things that jump out at me in the proposed law. I wasn't going to say anything until later, but As long as I'm talking, I'm gonna keep talking. And you can't shut me up.
I won't try.
And, we don't have page number on here, but it looks like page 3 or 4, freestanding sign area, exclusive of the foundation within 1 foot from the grade. The entire structure calculated in the square footage of the sign. Now, that's a pretty unique way of figuring sign square footage. Usually, the face of the sign is the square footage. That
That seemed like a good change. We could make.
2 pages later, B4, electronic message signs are only allowed as freestanding signs and not as wall, projecting, roof, awning, marquee, or canopy signs. If you want to do on Main Street, there's just no place to put one. You can't put, there's no place to put a freestanding sign in the business district.
Well, that's right.
And maybe they don't really, that thing gotta be, I think gotta be, because if you go on 281, you may not want a monument sign, you may want to put an electronic message board on Corey's building or something like that. And then, electronic, someplace in here it says, oh, yeah. The applicant wanting said sign shall be required to execute hold harmless. Leaving the village of Baldwinsville for many and all.
Yeah. We didn't write it. We didn't write it a whole lot. So
The other thing that a lot of, I don't know if the rest of the board members have gotten it. I gave it to Tanya and I think everybody got one. There is probably 150 pages of sign information that I acquired from the United States Sign Council. And referring to electronic messaging center starts with levels of lighting and freestanding on-premise sign lighting. There's a whole lot of information here that ought to be looked at rather than just say, I don't like, or, you know, let's follow the science on this. The sign council has organized and spent a lot of money. They have studies done that are pretty well accredited. And whether you like EMCs or not, and everything doesn't have to be an EMC. An LED sign doesn't have to be an electronic message center. An LED sign, if you go down here, T-Bank's got 2. One says ATM and the other one says drive through or open and close. First National Bank Drive, the same thing. We can't paint all signs with the same brush. And I've been involved with the sign business for the last 30 or 40 years. I know by no means enough for it, but I do know that there's a lot more to it than just saying, well, I haven't liked it.
appreciate that. And, you know, I hope that both the planning and the zoning boards feel that we don't, I can't speak for the other trustees, but I don't think I've ever tried to influence any decision that you guys have made other than providing information if asked. So it's important for me that both boards be very independent.
We are.
Right, so that's critical, and that's why, otherwise, it's, you know, that's a waste of time, right? Yeah.
Do the people that came to you requesting the signs currently have some sort of sign already?
They all have the plastic.
So they're looking to upgrade, come into the new times and get their message across.
I guess I'll speak to that. It's all,
the only one here representing, a member of the American Legion representing that. And one of the people that we had a meeting with the mayor, with the Center for Arts people. We all met one night and discussed a lot of this. What we were looking for in the American Legion was a better way to communicate with the community. We currently have a marquee, which we've had for a long time, and a changeable sign. So we have to change the plastic letter. So we were looking to upgrade ourselves into the modern era without inflicting damage to the community. There are tasteful ways of doing this, not the old-fashioned pixel way. There's video, there's other ways of doing these signs. They're much more less aggressive to the person looking at it. That's what we were looking at, was to replace what we have right now, and we would actually have a smaller footprint than we have right now, with a upgraded marquee, which is the non-programmable part, and a programmable part that would be smaller than what we're using right now, but would be more or less a video program. So it would be full screen, like we're looking at right here. Only, we would have messages on there as to what is going on with us in the community, what we are, what we do, the things that we do to try and get our message out better to the community. That's what we were looking to do. We currently have a way of doing it. We were just looking to upgrade it and become more compatible and actually probably better looking in the district that we're in. So, but that's up to, I was here at the meeting when we did the historic district the first time. So, this historic district did not exist. It was pushed through by certain people, and now it's here. That's okay. I understand why we did it. But there was also a lot of restrictions that were proposed in that proposal that never went through. So we need to look at this, and we need to look at what goes on in our community and who is in our community and what they're trying to do in your community. We have the Center for Arts now. That was a Baptist church. I went there for years with my great grandmother and my family. It's not a church anymore. It's a Center for Arts. So that's a whole different thing. I mean, these are the things that evolve in the community. We can't just say we want. I would hate to bring in some pictures of Main Street like it was in the 1930s here. If you want to go back to that, you can have it with all the wires and everything else and all the front and everything. You couldn't even see the building. That's what it was. I mean, so let's not say this because we're asking to do a little something progressive that we should not do it. So that's basically what we were looking for, was to get a better way to let the community know who we are, and what we do. We have that way now, but it's it's plumbing. And we're trying to get it where we can have one or two people maintain it and we can get away. All right, so that's what we're looking at. So
Thank you.
Yeah, very good.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'd like to address this from the perspective of people who are new in the community. Mary Musson,
Name and address, please.
Mary and Ron Musson, and we bought a home on Clinton Street. And the first year we were here, and of course it was COVID, it was so hard to get information. For somebody who's coming in. We missed our newspaper. We came from Norwich, New York. We had a daily paper. Everybody read it. All the ads were in there. All the specials were in there. And that's what we missed the most. Having it right in front of us. I was so pleased to see what happened in the Homer News this week. Has everybody seen that? And the difference? Okay, so from the perspective of new people, that's the way to go. That's the way to go. To have the information there, that's where the ads are, that's where the specials are. If we keep that going, that will at least get the information to the people who need it. The question with the signs is, who are they for? By traffic? Who are those signs for the most part? So those are the questions to ask. as newcomers, get a great newspaper. You know, have it so that you can sit at night and look at things. And I know I have 3 kids, they're all online, no, they don't know anything about it. It's too select, right? It's ridiculous. It's spread out. Read a newspaper. Thank you.
One of the biggest companies in America is in the sign business, and you probably don't realize it, and that's Google. They have a sign business called Intersection, so when you go into larger cities or airports or bus stations, the intersection signs are Kindle-based technology, so they're not as scarce. So whoever's the point person on your committee or committees should be looking at this Google technology as well, because it's not anywhere near as garish or invasive when you look at those signs. Whether they work or not from a car driving by, I'm not sure, but certainly for pedestrian traffic, they work well.
That's a great point, though, the whole, sort of, digital paper, that the Kindle is, you know, if you've ever seen a Kindle or tried to read on a Kindle, it's different than, you know, just reading text on a computer.
And they come as big or bigger than the door coming in on the south side of the building here. So I would think that you could get the letter size so that somebody like Granny at the Legion or Center for the Arts, the school or whoever the other 2 unnamed organizations are, would be happy with the signage so that somebody driving by on Route 11 with Legion could see what's happening at the Legion in a couple of weeks.
So basically, we were going to go down in size.
Right.
Or, you know, the square footage we have right now, we were going to actually come down, I forget what the number was, but I think they had a proposal that I sent in. We would have actually come down and actually square footage size, but it would have been adequate for what we wanted to do.
Yeah, I don't think any of the 3 signs would be larger than that television.
The programming parts.
Right,
Yeah.
the programmable parts, yeah.
I think ours is smaller than that one.
Yeah, I don't think any of the 3. are.
And not to pick on Debbie and her husband that sits in front of me, but they could put a digital sign inside their store behind the windows and probably not be subjected to zoning board or planning.
I encountered those when I was doing research today. That's a big thing. Window signs. John, you had something else?
Well, whatever ordinance you come up with, one question that arises in my mind, what are the implications for existing signs? Are they grandfathered in?
Grandfathered in what way? And
In the sense that they've already been there. So therefore, whatever the requirements are, they would not apply.
For instance, the Legion. That's not be exempt from the new sidewalks.
No, I mean, if we're switching to a different technology,
Church,
yeah.
or the church sign.
There are some laws, there are some ordinances where it's written in that there's like a 10-year amortization period, which non-conforming signs would have 10 years to conform. I have seen that in some ordinances, but that's not in this one.
And would it include landlords for the perpetual correct sign? Which the city of Portland has struggled with for 35, 40 years.
I don't think we have to know.
We're talking about changing whole sign ordinance or just addressing EMC LED sign.
That's also a great question. I mean, are there other things in the sign ordinance that need to be addressed? I'm not sure. There are. It's not very robust, that section of our code.
So to answer that, in the comprehensive plan, section 13.4.7, as part of the zoning code revision, the village will review and revise regulations governing signs within the village. We haven't really addressed that, but this may be the impetus to address the whole thing writ large.
I think we should.
Ed Rouse, I live in the village, I'm on 281. Is this, what we're doing today, is this anything final, or we have we'll have another chance to comment?
Yeah. We're not gonna rush this. Obviously, that, there's a lot, we wanna get it right, and so, we wanna continue to hear from people, we're not gonna rush this.
The only comment I had is that, I wonder if we realize what an asset the overused is for advertising, communicating with the community. That's what I mentioned before. I mean, people don't utilize it, seems to me, like, it goes into every house in the village, right?
It's
So
it's
what an opportunity.
true gem, and I want to thank Don for publishing it probably a few years longer than he wanted to, because it was the dedication that you showed to keeping it going. That is the reason it's still going.
Well, we need to thank Ed for getting.
And Ed got it, yeah.
Yeah.
I was a cover reporter.
So, yeah, it's a tremendous asset that we have here. It's fantastic, and so I really appreciate you
I
guys.
think people should write more. No, it's wide open for the people.
Martin is prolific. He writes a lot for it.
Keeps me all.
Yeah, but that's not answering our sign problem.
No, yeah,
It's been Martin's business forever.
Kevin Williams, Village Market, 1986, being here. Just some quick things I pointed out. So first time I've seen this tonight. In your window area signs, current law is proposed. Would not allow me to put the signs for hamburger and stuff in the windows as it is right now. As a meeting. The springs and lights that we use, LEDs or whatever that we find on our Christmas trees, so we know when we put out. We're not really allowed. We put lights up around the statues to put out every year. Not allowed. It's just in the people there. Because they don't want to put them out. It's too cold most of the time, and sooner or later somebody makes you do it. So we like to do those things. The 281 is different than downtown village. The central business with maybe people on one type. People that walk down the street may have some closeness to the signs that would be deemed appropriate for 30 miles an hour as they 75 or 100 feet. I understand that. Peter said the same thing. We've got a approach for technology to put our window signs in the window of the TV. Perpendicular. Or up and down. Well, I don't feel this my time to do that, but I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna come. We like doing our signs, we like doing our thing. When it comes to village history, I don't think anybody in the room really realizes the attention to detail that we paid on that building to actually spend the time and money to do what we need to do to keep it going. And those are costs that will never be paid back in my lifetime, but will be paid back as the building survives. So if my neighbors want to do something to make their lives easier, I'm for it. There's got to be a way we can sit down and make things work for everyone. I've never been disappointed when the village gets together, we find our own level and things will work. So I also know that most everybody is about over 60 or 65 in this room. I struggle very hard every day like you missed my comment. I struggle every day to identify as the 30-year-old. And I try to talk with the folks that come in every day and see what they're thinking. I would highly advise you to have people talk to what the new kids are coming up with, because I'm planning my exit strategy, and I hope that these kids coming in are going to want to do the same things, and they're not going to do it the same as we did. So that was just my original comment tonight. Just
thanks, Kevin. We will obviously address those issues that you brought up, because we're not looking to place restrictions. The village food mart looks tremendous, especially at Christmas time. So we don't want to do anything to change that.
and Christmas ones look pretty good too this year. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I have talked to some young homeowners and they're just as opposed as we are. They bought their houses in the historic district and doing a really good job to repaint them and upkeep them and make care in the same way, I think, as those of us over 65. And I also, I mean, I was talking to Ty at the center the other day and, you know, we were at a concert and he always asked at the beginning of concerts, how many people are from Homer? And maybe a fraction of the audience is from Homer. The majority come from Syracuse, Binghamton, and beyond, and they never see those signs. So they're not coming to the center because the signs are there. They're probably not coming to the American Legion because the signs are there. They're coming because they have more information somewhere else about what those organizations do. And that's what draws them in. So, I mean, it's nice to have a sign saying who we are, but I really don't think anything on the center is going to attract somebody. We're all on their website. We're all finding out about them in a million other ways, the Homer News. I just don't think the signs are that important.
That I would disagree with that one. I can't tell you the number of times I drive past the Legion, the fire department, or the center and say, oh, Legion's having a pancake breakfast. Oh, Shamika Copeland's coming tomorrow night. I didn't realize it was tomorrow night. Or, oh, the fire department is having a chicken barbecue. I didn't, you know, these things, every time I drive through that area, I look at those signs.
So the signs were go to
I go to as many as I can, having 2 jobs.
So no, the signs that are up now that are existing are working. Still getting the message across without having a lost name.
I think maybe even people that are opposed to them could volunteer to go out and change the letters for these organizations.
But the majority of people going along the road are you are the majority of the people that are using that road.
But you don't think they're interested in what's on the signs? Yes.
I'm not in the village. My name is Tim Malchak. Thank you for your service. Okay, we need to get people in this town. If they're on 81, they're coming off to get gas. If they see the sign at Legion that they're having chicken barbecue or they're having something going on, they can stop and have it. So we need to get together. These signs are very important. Because if you don't see it, you're not going to stop. These guys make money to promote them to the town. They're doing things for the town. The art center, yeah, they're looking at the paper and they see, okay, but if somebody got off 81 and said there's a show tonight, I want to go see it. Well, then they'll stop and go see it. We need to grow, or we're going to be like Radiator Springs on the movie Cars, which probably most of you haven't seen it yet. But I'm just saying, you know, when Lightning McQueen comes, they turn the lights all on. We need to see Homer in his beauty. My family's been here for over 100 years. Okay, and I love this town. And I'd like to see this town keep growing. Or we're going to be like McGraw. We're going to be like some of these towns that are shut down and nothing going on. Thank God we still have a town that people want to be at and love this town. So please really consider these signs so people that aren't in this town can come here and still see what's going on and enjoy the beautiful stuff you guys have here.
But we have those.
Yeah, well, you can't see them. I don't know when they're having chicken barbecues. I never see them. But I'd love to see it 2 days before they're coming to have chicken barbecues. I love their chicken. And I love supporting their town, this community. All my time goes to this community, every visit.
Signs serve more than one purpose, and again, I think you might hit upon it a little bit. A, it's to advertise whatever you're marketing. B, it's wayfinding to identify your business, your church, whatever it is. So if you're driving through and there's an illegible sign for Center of the Arts, now you're going to create traffic jams looking around, trying to find where the Center of the Arts is. And I can tell you that the Legion has to put a sign up that says private parking only if they got something else. Signage, there's multitude of purposes. It isn't just the one thing, one-time thing. And we need to consider that, and people coming in through the community, as Tim said, they may not be looking for a chicken barbecue, or they may not be looking for whatever requirements feel big, but there's something there that gets their attention. And if you don't market it, and you can print a 60-page home news every other week, and you're still not going to reach the people who are, you want to mine this vast traffic off of, that comes off, could come off of the one. Now, they're not all going to get off here, but let's face it, that's in the sense, that's money, that's fun money for us. We're not digging in our own pockets to support the Legion, the Fire Department, Center for the Arts. So we need to really dig in and take advantage of our position where we are on exit 12. So I think I don't have a particular bet one way or the other on the ESCs, whether we do them, but to say that you won't have them at all when you can put a static one up that you don't have to paint, and you got zero, that's the zero maintenance, as opposed to Village Food Market. Every few years you got to go paint the back more to the sign. If you got an electronic one, you don't have to do that. There's a whole lot of other financial aspects, and the home rooms would be great if you could keep it going on a daily basis. It's really a struggle to do it on even a bi-weekly basis. We could have had more pages, but it costs almost $1,200 an issue to print and mail. And that money comes from Village Food Market. It comes from the Village of Homer that advertises. It comes from all the other small businesses. You can't keep hitting them every day. There's a reason the Portland Standard is only 12 pages every day. It's economics. And
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't cut you off.
no, that's it.
Okay.
Okay, so as a village resident, village business owner, I think we need to keep the historical character of the village. And coming from a marketing standpoint, if everybody has an LED sign, I hate to tell you, but your message gets lost. You have to figure out another way to attract people. You have people coming from Syracuse all the time. Check my sign out. We barely have one. People find us. So there's other ways to do it. We don't need to look like Las Vegas.
I don't want us to look like one at all.
Really quick, what the village of Portland needs is public information. With all these teachers coming on. And a constant looking at that, changing it, enforcing it, but having the main issue being getting information to the people who. That's called public information, and I used to be professionally, so I know a more fast.
You're on the committee.
I'll tell you, yeah, we might. There are things that we put out, like laws about the garbage cans. We'll put it in the Homer News, put it in the radio, we'll put it on the water bill. And still people will come to us and say, I never saw it. I never heard it. I didn't know it even happened. It's tough to reach, and that not to mention the social media and our website, you mentioned board meetings. It's hard to cut through.
Need a sign over Main Street.
Maybe just one LED banner over Main Street, one big LED banner.
Signs are important because here's the new people coming into town. When you go to a town and you see rundown signs like Portland's were for a while back, you just immediately say, Portland probably doesn't give a damn. Now you come to Homer, we just spent pretty good money getting some nice signs to say, and, welcome to Homer. Again, they're a little small for mine, too many words, but anyhow, I get over, but anyhow, I think they're nice. But that shows that the village cares, and if you care, then that kind of goes out to our businesses and the people and our new people in Clinton Avenue that we care. So having crappy old signs that look with a letter hanging off and that kind of stuff, it kind of reflects on the whole village. So we need to do something that looks good, that makes everybody happy. So signage is important because they got them already and they aren't going to give them up. So, but they got to look new and fresh as a minimum. Over.
Al, I really support that statement. In fact, I support everything that people said. And I have a vision of how this could work. And I believe it's actually maybe some other people would say no signs whatsoever, or Martin, you thought that was one option. But you also agreed that it's possible to have it with strict guidelines. And I think, and I have a vision of how it can be done with strict guidelines. It basically would have signs look like the signs that you right now have. It wouldn't be maybe the video that you're proposing, but one can use changeable signs, LEDs, EMCs, to replicate signs and do that we have now and do better. And that's attacking and falling apart as we have.
Right.
So there's the technology is there, and I'm sure the businesses can, well, I don't think that's, talking about proliferation of them because they cost a lot of money, but it has the convenience of the changeability, low maintenance that Don brought up, and it can be done within the character of the historic area and done better than it is now. So with my position is that, of course, you limit the size and everything, but you limit the colors. So if you only have a palette of 3 colors. Right now, you're using basically black, white. Some places you have some background of yellow. But you could have a palette of 3 or 4 colors and only use 2 or 3 colors at any one time. And of course, it has to be an appropriate frame. So, it's not one or the other. It's not these garish signs that are going on, which I'm totally against, and everybody here is against. But I think that you could have regulations written that establish guidelines that have appropriate signs, for the historic. And another, if it's a whole broad rule for the village, 281 and what I call, it's called Gasoline Alley, could have a different kind of look. So you have basically 2 districts, 2 types of regulations. And I just want to compliment also you and the village board for this approach of going slow. And it's a very sensitive thing. I think that's great. I think the whole showing here of people coming and talking about it is just a good.
Yeah, we're gonna go very slow. Very slow.
Oh, by the way, I do have one more thing I have written up here. You can have a copy of it. I am suggesting that this is so complex that this requires contracting with the final draft. This is not at this stage because it's a do-it-yourself operation now. It should contract with a land use lawyer or consultant and zoning law to draft the final piece. If there's issues of this taking away the opportunity for the zoning board of appeals to have a role in it. And it's how to integrate that, which makes it almost like a separate law with the existing law that we have. You have a takeout of that particular requirement for LEDs versus the rest of the law, and that whole integration makes it very complex. And so I think it's that.
That's a great point. And I do want the zoning board to always have a say in this. That's why we're doing it this way. Yes, John.
Well, I've heard people talk about how the beauty of the village is what attracts people from the outside. And the question you have to ask is at what point do you start losing that? So that people won't want to be attracted. Pay a little paradise and put up a parking lot.
That way you don't know. This kid. No, that's a great point. I understand. I do not want to do anything that destroys the character of this village. don't. And I know that my board, all the boards share that.
Well, you'll get another opportunity, I hope, sometime pretty soon, if we win that $10 million downtown revitalization initiative. That means you'll all get to come back and talk again about
But it's 10 million.
what we want to spend $10 million.
Just put one big billboard out on 81 in the old Kingsbury front lawn and have everything advertised out there.
Who else? Yes.
Yes, I did want to speak. I think the most important thing to me is kind of, maybe I'll put my zoning board hat on, is that when we see like an area variance, we go through this list of questions. And some of them are, how does it benefit the applicant versus how does it affect the neighborhood? And I think that LED signs would probably fail all 5 of those questions. I think they're a significant change, whether you like them or not. I think there's probably no denying that they change the characteristics of the neighborhood. So the idea of having those in what we're calling our historic downtown is just painful. And so like that area especially, I really just don't like that idea of that. We compare ourselves to other towns that I think of like Skinny-Atlas. That's a beautiful downtown area that would not have an LED sign up.
It's impossible, we have a business there, it's impossible getting in touch. It's amazing. They make,
Yes.
their fire department does, but the down the village.
Yeah,
How many meetings did we have to go to get our sign? It was insane. Our sign is very simple. And it should be.
I think it should be clarified, if I'm
Just
correct.
talk
The
for-
proposal is not to have signs in the central business district, or it could be written in there. It says B1, B2, and sections of certain kinds of things in the residential area. I would propose that the central business district specific is excluded from this. There are no signs.
well, the first 3 applicants, I would argue, are kind of right.
But it's kind of, or are they officially?
Well,
No, according to the zoning map, I don't think that they are. Does anybody know for sure?
Well,
The 3 business.
they're in the historical district.
No, but they're not in the central business.
they're in order.
Like an entryway.
No, R2 and our central business district is a carve out. It's not in B1 or B2. Separate just.
Well, I guess my point isn't necessarily the way it's zoned or what it is now. I would argue that kind of our Main Street drag,
Right,
I would think you would not
right.
be
I
appropriate.
agree. I agree.
And we're looking at
Well, I know.
shaping the law for the first 3 applicants, then that would be my biggest concern right off the bat.
Well,
I understand that maybe the plastic signs are not ideal, but I don't know that makes an LED sign the answer. I don't think it should default to that. I think the need or the benefit would have to be pretty strong to outweigh kind of the downside of it. There was that suggestion about the E8 sign. That was interesting to me. I hadn't even considered those for storefront signs, but I know that type of like a Kindle is meant to be easier on your eyes to read rather than an LED, which comes out. So I think creative solutions like that are maybe a better way that we could come together on something. But I just don't know that I would agree with the statement that an LED sign necessarily represents progress.
All right, very good. Well, oh, sorry.
Yeah, our current ordinance says that the code enforcement officer shall make a written report on the status of the sign local law enforcement annually to the village planning board. And I know the zoning board has never seen that annual report on village signs, but that might be a useful thing to take a look at for the last 5 years or so, and how signs have been.
Don't think we've ever seen a written report on those signs. And I don't think we have, probably even if we searched our files, we would find them. The code enforcement officer, kind of does that part of it, but we've never seen there's a lot of things in our code that are being, because they're pretty outdated.
So then whatever would be put in any sign provisions about enforcement or compliance or any of that, I think then the board of trustees would need to think about how that would be administered, and maybe we need a new staff person.
Well, it would fall to the code enforcement officer to enforce if someone was out of compliance with the sign.
But if the code enforcement officer isn't able to do what we already require, how will they go around measuring?
He does, what he does.
Whatever.
Patricia, there's a lot of things and a lot
Yeah.
of reports in here that in the transition between our code officers, our previous code officer never did it. He's got a lot of things that he's doing. It's kind of a low priority.
I'm just suggesting that if everybody's talking about sizes and lights and all the rest of it, that I assume that there would be some compliance and administration put into the law. So that we need to think about if this is happening, then how is more than this gonna happen?
There is, it's just when you're asking for an annual report, that's.
I'm asking for the code. Which is being rewritten.
We are, yes, we are very close to being finished with rewriting the code. And I'm hard pressed to think of the immediate value of a report like that. I don't know what it would even say.
I am positive there are local laws on the books currently that law enforcement is not enforcing.
There are a lot of very unusual ones in there. If you read it. Yeah.
So we are trying to move forward.
Yeah, just to give you an example, the state legislature just had to pass, and last year, a law that said it was not illegal to get a haircut on a Sunday in New York State. So that was last year that they did that. So there are a lot of old laws. I think our code enforcement officer does a great job in the village of keeping on top of things, not just with all the building and issues, but also with the quality of life stuff. Garbage can issue, I mean, that's a big one. Cars parking yards, all the things that make the village look shoddy that we tasked him to stay on top of. That's probably right, I think.
I think Patricia's point is that I'm suggesting that signs could be made to replicate what we have. A limited palette. So, yeah, okay. She is pointing out who's going to enforce that. So when you write this law and let's say even accepted my concept of limited palette, you know, is he going around, code enforcement gonna go around and say you're using 4 colors and you only allow 3 colors?
Well, yeah, absolutely. The way we handle it now is is it Kevin that finds every garbage can that's overflowing that needs to be? No, we task different people with that, and they bring it to his attention and he acts on it. So that's why we have the whole all employees in the village. So if one of us would drive by a sign that could only use 3 colors, we saw 7, we would go right to the code officer and say they're out of compliance. And he would.
So the current sign that's on the green, what I understand when that was put up by the church, that their message was not supposed to change on the day throughout the day, but it currently does. That's not being enforced. So I mean, and that's right on Main Street. And that's the only LED sign there and no one's enforcing.
Is that in?
I have no idea. I've never. Yeah.
Well, that would be if it's not in the code book.
But it was there.
Verbal agreement, it wasn't a law.
Go on verbal.
And it doesn't change. My husband's the one who sets it and it doesn't.
I've sat there and watched it. I recorded it, sent him a video of it to show him that it does.
What's it say?
What does it change?
What does it say?
One sign indicates what time our worship is on Sunday. And the other one that comes up is usually just some, right now it says be a blessing.
Most people don't even know.
No, I'm not saying that it's wrong and right. What I'm saying is that there's no enforcement of it. Is my point.
No one even knows.
There's no law.
It was put up to now. It was part of the zoning code, but it was passed as part of the resolution and how it was approved by the zoning board. We went back to the old notes, and looked at some of these other signs that came through and looked.
So have either of you called code enforcement and let them know that?
I didn't know who was supposed to enforce that.
I mean, because if it's written somewhere that it's supposed to be that way, the only way to police it is for people to let code enforcement know that it's.
I think, I do not think that we can make everybody in the village.
No, we can't go around tattling on everybody, people, but I think, but you're bringing up, you're bringing up a point that something is wrong. And you're putting someone on the spot for it, but nobody has made the effort to reach out to them and say, hey, this is what was agreed upon, and it's not happening.
Well, that's, my point is that when you pass a law, its administration has to be feasible, and as a village, we need to be able to do what we're saying we're going to do. And that needs to be taken into consideration whenever the new law is drafted. So that if they say it's going to be this way, this way, this way, then they need to consider how we're going to make sure that it actually is this way, and this way. That's all I'm saying. And if they say that they're going to require so much management, so much compliance, so much regulation, whatever, then they need to consider how that's going to be administered.
I don't disagree, but like, one person doesn't know everything. Like, even two people wouldn't know everything. If they have to hire three. If you make it that. Well, all the that money is gonna come out of their pocket. Not that they be the least person, my neighbor. No one is rejecting that, but you're putting them on the spot saying that they're not doing something. Well, I don't know that.
I think she could actually know it's going to be.
So the answer that there is a compliance portion in the ordinance, or they would fall on the code enforcement. At this time, I would recommend that we kind of go through, because they're already touching upon some of the items.
Sure.
We'll start because I have the planning board at the top. One of the things that they had brought into was to incorporate hours of operation into the sign.
I have a question on that. Hours of operation, meaning it has to turn off at a certain point, or meaning what I was thinking, which it has to dim to a very dim level.
I don't recall that the planning board recommended hours of operation. It's in the law here that you're proposing that it's not permissible from certain hours.
9 p.m. to 6 a.m.
That's in the proposed draft.
I was going off of the notes from
Well, I know
We did talk about that.
Yeah, we talked about it, but that is, one off of the draft law is what we have in front of us. There are, has to be turned off at certain hours. And what did we suggest, in my recommendation about that?
I don't think that we think of
It's right here.
I think we
What
You said that this is something that would need to be discussed.
We said incorporate the hours of operation.
Okay.
We did not say specifically.
Right.
And the drafted law does say.
Yeah.
Between 9 a.m.
9 p.m. and 6 a.m. they need to be off.
But in that Baldwinville says you gotta turn it off.
Right.
But Homer might say you only gotta dim it. So you have some dim bulbs out there instead of some bright bulbs.
And my concept. My concept is that there are different regulations for different districts, so that you would have a 21 or business or something like that, and something else for down the historic area, or the permissible uses in the residential area. So there, so what I suggested there is minimum, no, not the whole time. Anyway, operation of EMS would be in the business, B1 and B2, it might be 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. It's not permissible or whatever you come up with. And in the residential areas, it might be from 10 to 6,
6:30 in the morning, that's not permissible. So I think any of these regulations should be thought of in terms of distance.
I think we can do that, you know, the height of the sign should be regulated. I think we could look at that, say, what district. Specific.
Might be a little, much taller or bigger in 281 than they would be in the residential area. I mean, you got, the way this is written now, it's the signs are okay in the residential areas for churches and nonprofits and schools. Actually, nonprofits are not mentioned in there. I'm suggesting that besides schools and churches, were nonprofits.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for the planning board on there? The notes.
Victor?
So, I think we're getting really close. I'm gonna solve it. There's an invisible button here. I'm gonna press this button. Oh, it's hard. Gonna press this button, and what it just did, it fast forwarded 7 years, okay? It's now 2030. And if you go to the vendors who are pushing so hard to sell the stuff, they're now selling micro LEDs, which are exactly what Pierre is talking about. Exactly the essence of what Mike's talking about. Our problem is only they're trying to force us into a technology too soon. So the church sign, if the church sign looked like a beautiful piece of paper, nobody would say anything. They'd say, oh, it's just the church sign. When you go to the village food market and they put up pork one, you just go buy it, it's the sign, and then you say, boy, I really like that, and go in and buy it. So what we're doing is on a technology curve. The definition of technology, cheaper, better, faster, is it used to be 18 pixels. Now, I guess it's 8 going on 6. It's still no good. Here's why it's no good. Because we're trying to do 2 things at once. Victor and Ann want to walk down the street from 10 feet away. You want to drive by at 30 miles an hour and both see the same sign. The signs are crucial. I agree with you totally, Mayor. I learned about those chicken barbecues. That's how I go to them. You have to have these signs. But so all we want to do is cool it on Main Street until the pixels get smaller. And do it, there was one suggestion, do it on 281, see how that evolves. The laws would be complicated enough to write. We're not in any rush. We've been here for 200 years. We're going to be here 200 years more. Just wait till the technology gives you a piece of paper that's self-illuminated, changeable from a computer at a low cost. You can actually buy it right now from Samsung, but the panel that Pierre was talking about costs $100,000. So you want to buy it for $600. And in fact, today I saw the quotes that the Center for the Arts got from 2 vendors. One was $18,000 for a dinky little sign. The other was $12,000 for a dinky little sign with all sorts of wares, all sorts of complications, all sort of maintenance problems like the twitch on the Congregational Church sign. We're too early in the technology. They're selling it. We don't have to buy it, except where it's appropriate on 281. So just cool our jets, write the law, and from our house, we would see the American Legion, the Center for the Arts, the library, the Worcester House. From our house, it's 5 signs staring us in the face.
I think you're in Vegas.
We won't need the whole news. But so, and I'll be in favor of them all. You know me, I'm not opposed to technology in any way. Just cool our jets on this. Thank you.
All right, so any other discussion on the notes from the planning?
Well, I think that kind of leads into the notes from the ZBA. Then we had, there's a recommendation on page 6, section 7, designate overlay district 281.
Talk about it.
And we said that ZBA should have a part in.
Yeah. And
So the ZBA, I had a question, so the variance on granted would be tied to the actual business that was applied, or does that mean that the business changes? The sign goes, the new business has to apply for the variance?
That's what our question was, yeah.
that's your question.
Contact?
Yep.
ZBA had a question of if the variance is granted, would it be tied to the actual business as it was applied for? So.
Yeah, we talked about that in the meeting, and it would be an individual license that would, have to be reapplied for. If, for instance, a new business opened up, they'd still be going through the planning board, for that whole process. And if they were going to keep the exact same sign in the same business, that just doesn't really happen. But if it was a change in owner and it was the same exact business and they wanted to keep the same exact business, I guess they wouldn't have to go through the planning board. But any other, change above the minor level would, require another permit and go through the planning board process.
Thanks, Dante.
And then I see some of the other things are cleaning up just other parts of the draft law, which of course we would definitely do that. Any other?
Well, the big point of ZBA has no jurisdiction. I really think that needs to be thought through very carefully, not only because it creates this hole inside the rest of the signage regulation. Has a duality there that I can't quite wrap my head around. But the other thing is, if it goes, if you appeal to the Board of Trustees, if they ever have the last say, what is the applicant's appeal process if they're not satisfied with that? So right now, when they go to the ZBA and they are not happy with it, I think they can go to the village board. I'm not, I'm not sure. You are not sure.
Dante, do you know? We've not had that happen.
If it
They bring Article 79 proceeding and sue that particular board, and we were kind of,
Okay,
yeah.
We have had that happen.
Yeah, we have, and I don't want to speak really about any particulars. There would potentially be a process where, if the Board of Trustees can always change the zoning law, they have, the authority under that to do that. That's not something that's recommended. You don't want to get accused of or even go down the path of spot zoning. But there is a little potential for the Board of Trustees to intervene, but that would not be the typical or likely process.
I want the zoning board. Right. Yeah. So yeah, we did have that. We did have someone that was unhappy with the decision, and that's what they did was sue the village. So they didn't just come to us. They had to sue, and that's not fun.
So I guess to answer that question is, whatever we draft, we will have the ZBA in the process.
This proposal as written. Have you guys made any edits to this other than changing Baldwinsville to Homer?
No. This is a discussion.
Our proposal,
Yeah.
this is
This is like
what time would look like if it were done.
it's a jumping off point for discussion. It's not in all the law that we.
Yeah.
No. There are a lot of things that need to change. But we had to start the discussion somewhere with some examples of sign laws from other places.
Anybody else?
Yep. All right. Well, we will do this again. I think, 3 boards will probably go do some homework. I know we will. Okay, our board will do some homework. And I know Victor will continue to do his homework. Which I appreciate, you know that I appreciate that.
I know.
And again, we're not. This isn't gonna just come up and blindside anyone here, right? There'll be a lot more discussion if we do anything, and we're not gonna rush into anything, I assure you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right?
Eric.
Then we officially close the public hearing. Aye.